To what extent can a team order ruin not only a race, but an entire relationship between driver and team? What if that driver is the rising star of the championship and his manager is willing to do anything to protect him? According to sources close to Webber's entourage, a formal meeting with the McLaren board is already planned during the winter break. But beyond the meetings, the tension has already reached the media. What were initially buried rumors have now morphed into an open narrative. McLaren is favoring Norris, and Webber is willing to ignite public debate if necessary. It's not just about winning a championship. It is a battle for professional respect, for sporting integrity, and for the future of a talent that many consider a potential champion. Oscar Piastri came into that weekend with an absolutely dominant pace. From the first free practice, he marked territory. His car behaved like an extension of his own body, precise, stable, lethally fast. In classification, there were no doubts. Unquestionable pole position. And not a circumstantial pole due to rain or yellow flags, but a perfect lap in clean conditions, which left even Max Verstappen behind. That kind of performance is every driver's dream. But more than that, it is a validation of a job well done. The time to collect the fruits of an entire season. The race started as expected. Piastri led with solvency, setting constant times without overexerting the tires, keeping his pursuers at bay. Everything seemed headed for a controlled victory. Until lap 7 arrived. The incident of a lagging car caused the safety car to be called out. For all the teams, it was a golden opportunity. A free pit stop without losing any real time. Everyone knew it. Max Verstappen knew it. Ferrari knew it. Mercedes too. And everyone entered. Everyone except McLaren. Andrea Stella and her team of strategists made a decision that not only surprised, but also disconcerted, keeping both Piastri and Norris on the track. The official explanation was technical. They feared losing time with a double stop. They claimed their simulations did not expect so many cars to stop. But those reasons, although they sound logical on paper, do not hold up under the scrutiny of reality. It was evident that it was a reaction conditioned by fear, by indecision, by excessive confidence in mathematical models that do not capture the real chaos of a race. What followed was a strategic massacre. Piastri, who was leading comfortably, began to lose positions irremediably. When he finally entered the pits, it was too late. Their window of opportunity had closed. Victory, which seemed inevitable, faded with each lap. The McLaren wall had turned a perfect race into a sporting disaster of historic proportions. But the most shocking thing was not the loss of points. It was the loss of spirit. On the cool-down lap, Piastri could barely articulate a sentence. "I have no words," he said over the radio. That phrase, spoken in a dull voice, condensed a mixture of disbelief, frustration, and resignation. It wasn't just about losing a race. It was realizing that his team, at the most crucial moment, had left him alone. That kind of strategic betrayal is not easily erased. Leave scars. And change relationships. After the race, in the mixed zone, Piastri tried to maintain his composure. He declared that what happened was quite painful, even more than his previous disqualification in Las Vegas. And that comparison is powerful. Because while a disqualification can be due to a technical infraction, a configuration error, something external, what happened in Qatar was an internal choice. It was a stab at his own team. This was the moment where trust, that intangible so vital in Formula One, was broken. Piastri could no longer ignore the evidence. The wall's decisions were not aligned with its success. And Mark Webber, seeing this from the outside, understood that it was no longer just about a championship. It was about the dignity of its pilot. The Qatar Grand Prix, therefore, was not a simple missed opportunity. It was the revelation of a deeper dysfunction. It was the day when Oscar Piastri, despite having the fastest car, understood that his biggest obstacles were not on the grid, but in his own garage. After the strategic collapse in Qatar, the alarms within Oscar Piastri's entourage were no longer internal. Mark Webber understood that private meetings and hallway diplomacy were no longer enough. The situation had surpassed the threshold of silence and called for a public response, calculated but forceful. The objective was clear: mark territory. And Webber, true to his style, did not choose shouting or grandiose statements. He chose something much more dangerous, a short, ironic phrase loaded with political poison. He said, with apparent lightness, that Oscar should start improving his Italian. It was a sentence of just 6 words. But for those who know the hidden language of the paddock, it was a detonation that echoed throughout the world of Formula One. It was not a linguistic recommendation. It was a direct warning, a camouflaged threat. an invitation to read between the lines. The message was as clear as it was symbolic. Italy means Ferrari, and Ferrari means opportunity. At that moment, Webber put on the table something that McLaren did not expect so soon, that Piastri was not tied either physically or emotionally to the Woking project. That if they kept making mistakes, if they kept treating him like a subordinate pilot, there were real and dangerously viable options outside the team. It didn't take long for the media to amplify the signal. In a few hours, the phrase was circulating on social networks, specialized sites and opinion columns. Some took it as a joke, others as a political statement. But the most experienced understood that Webber was using the same manual that Christian Horner and Helmut Marko had used for years, lobbying from the media to gain internal influence. Only this time the shot came from outside the team, from someone who is not afraid to destabilize if it means protecting his pilot. And Webber knows how races are built and destroyed in Formula One. He was a witness and victim of the internal wars at Red Bull during the Sebastian Vettel era. He experienced how a team, without saying it openly, can reconfigure its entire operation around a single driver. He suffered it firsthand, and he swore not to let Oscar Piastri go through the same thing. The moment chosen to say that phrase was not coincidental either. It happened just as the public narrative was beginning to tilt against McLaren. Fans were beginning to ask why Piastri, despite his performance, was being harmed by inexplicable strategic decisions. Webber only accelerated that process. His statements served as a catalyst for a conversation that was already boiling, and he did it without the need for direct confrontations, only sowing a powerful doubt. What if Oscar is already thinking about leaving? Internally, McLaren was forced to respond, not with statements but with gestures. The meetings intensified. The team's leadership, led by Andrea Stella, began to evaluate not only recent strategic decisions, but the long-term implications of losing their young star. Because in Formula One, talent does not wait. And neither do rival teams. Ferrari, for example, is in a redefinition phase. Despite the arrival of Hamilton, the Maranello team is always attentive to future opportunities, especially if it involves young talent with a champion profile. A driver like Piastri, backed by a manager like Webber, would be a perfect acquisition. It is not a remote possibility, it is a logical play on a board where movements are not made by impulse, but by calculation. Webber's phrase was a chess master move. A simple pawn advance to the 5th rank that forces the opponent to rethink their entire strategy. Because if McLaren does not act quickly, if it does not repair the relationship with Piastri, what is now only a symbolic threat can become a concrete reality. And losing Piastri wouldn't just be a sporting blow. It would be a strategic mistake that would mark a decade. Webber has made his position clear. Oscar will not be sacrificed in the name of internal balance. If McLaren doesn't treat him as the centerpiece of their project, he will look for the place where they do. And with a single phrase, he has changed the conversation throughout Formula One. Because when a driver starts looking towards Maranello, nothing will be the same again. What happened in Qatar wasn't just a bad race, and what Webber said wasn't just a threat. In reality, both events were part of the same signal. The relationship between McLaren and Oscar Piastri is entering a critical zone. This is not a momentary disagreement. We are facing a fracture that, if not managed with surgical precision, can become a permanent rupture. The challenge for McLaren now is multiple. First, they must restore lost trust. And that, in the ultra-competitive environment of Formula One, is extremely difficult. Because confidence in this sport is not measured in words but in decisions. It is not enough to tell a pilot that he is important. It must be demonstrated in every pit stop, in every strategy, in every radio message. Piastri doesn't need promises, need evidence. Mark Webber has played his role to perfection. He has used experience, symbolic language, and media pressure to position his driver at the center of the debate. He has reminded McLaren and all of Formula One that talents like Piastri cannot be treated as interchangeable parts. That if they are not given the place they deserve, others will. And most importantly, that he is willing to light fires if that guarantees sporting justice for his client. Piastri has shown that he is ready to compete at the highest level. He has done it with results, with courage, and with humility. But now, the next step no longer depends only on your performance. It depends on whether McLaren is willing to correct course, rebuild trust, and build a future where both drivers can coexist without one of them having to pay the price of the other. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.